Welcome to Mount Cuba Center, the former home and garden of Mr. and Mrs. Lamont DuPont Copeland. This public garden is set on nearly 600 acres in northern Delaware and focuses on native plants of the Appalachian Piedmont. Mount Cuba Center strives to impart an appreciation of plants of the eastern United States through our garden displays and education and research programs. In 1935, Mr. and Mrs. Lamont DuPont Copeland acquired property along the Red Clay Creek in an area known as Mount Cuba and began building a large colonial revival home on the highest point on the property. The architectural firm of Samuel and Victorine Holmesy designed the house. Through the years, other tracts of land were added, eventually forming an estate of nearly 230 acres, which has come to be known as Mount Cuba. The first design professional involved with the gardens of Mount Cuba was landscape architect Thomas W. Sears, prominent in the Philadelphia area between 1910 and 1940. In 1937, he was engaged by the Copelands to design the forecourt and terrace plantings. Lay out the cutting garden and lilac allée, and specify many of the large tree plantings around the residence. In the 1950s, Marion Coffin was appointed by the Copelands to continue the garden planning. Her contributions include the south lawn and round garden. The brick walks of the south lawn terminate in the round garden, where Coffin designed curved beds around a sunken, Maltese cross-shaped pool. In the mid-1960s, the Copelands began in earnest to explore the possibility that their beloved estate could be open to the public. Ultimately, with the assistance of Seth Kelsey, they planned Mount Cuba Botanical Park. Then, in 1969, the garden was cited by the American Association of Botanical Gardens and Arboreta for its significance and vision. Throughout this time and into the 1970s, the Copelands became acutely aware of a changing land ethic. Mrs. Copeland was increasingly concerned about wildflowers and the impact on them by development and unscrupulous land practices. Mount Cuba Center today is a collective and progressive vision of the Copelands, built on the joy they experienced in 65 years of living, working, and playing on the property. Mount Cuba Center performs research and strives to educate people about native plants. The native plants in our garden displays are from the Piedmont region and have co-evolved with insects and animals in that area. It is not uncommon to find plants from Pennsylvania growing happily next to a plant from North Carolina and even Georgia. In the past, native plants were promoted for their beauty, ability to provide a sense of place, and the preservation of our natural heritage. Native plants were also touted as better suited to their native habitat than those of other ecosystems. To sustain our native wildlife populations in the midst of their habitat destruction, it is more critical than ever to encourage the use of native plants in the garden. What were once open fields and woodlands are now homes for growing families. Even the farmer's fence row, a natural habitat for many songbirds and insects, is being plowed under to meet the needs of a growing population. We are increasingly finding that the only oases left for our native organisms are suburban gardens, right-of-ways, and other common areas. By planting native plants in our own gardens, we encourage native insects, birds, reptiles, mammals, and other wildlife to thrive. Should an entire neighborhood or community decide to grow native plants, an even more beneficial and continuous site can be created for both flora and fauna. We can all make a difference by starting in our own backyard. Be inspired by our gardens and great works. Go and commit to being a conservator of natural habitats.